So this is the business workflow. Now, what are the learnings? When you apply deep learning in enterprises, look out for these hurdles and things that you should plan for. Firstly, plan to label your own data. Most cases, businesses don't have data, so it's a luxury to have data. When you have data, you have to plan to label it. There are services, MTurk, and there are organizations which have come up just to label data. There's an industry blossoming out there on labeling data for AI models. Either you could use that or you could label your own data. And also look out for practical challenges. In this case, we talked about a few. There are these boundaries which we had to watch out for, or these fuzzy shapes. All of these are nuances which you will encounter in each business application. Plan for it. It's not going to be clean and straightforward. And don't stop at counts, go for actionability. So what I mean by actionability, the case where we let the researchers come in and make edits to the model, edits to the output of the model. So that is something where you have to make it configurable, parameterized, and make it easy to adopt and build it into the business workflow. The common challenge we have seen is we have a great model built and the results are pretty good and people are excited. But once you set it up at the client place, the adoption just doesn't happen. The primary reason we've noticed is that it doesn't fit into the workflow. If people have to go out of the way and use this, log into a separate application, use this, or do something which is not naturally as part of their day-to-day activities, they just wouldn't adopt it. There's a huge resistance from a change management perspective. So we'll have to plan for how we build it into the workflow, and that's the way where analytics can kind of be married with business and be adopted. The key thing, talked about accuracy. So the moment you talk about deep learning models, the question is, how accurate is your model? That's the favorite question. And the moment you start talking about percentages, people say, I don't want anything less than 100. So you'll have to explain that it's not a SAT score which you have to ace. We're looking at models which have to be better than what is being done today. So if humans are at, say, 30 or 40% error rate, if we bring it down to even 20-25%, that's a good step forward. And then over time, machines can get smarter and that error rate can further decrease. So this needs a bit of education and explanation, and eventually people do see it. But initially there is bound to be some resistance. And plan for model refresh. When you talk about building a pilot versus deploying something, there's a huge difference. Once you deploy something at an enterprise, you'll have to see how you keep it fresh and how you plan for this maintenance. So the productionization aspect has its own challenges. How often do you do it? What kind of input do you get to update it? So these are things which have to be carefully planned for and budgeted upfront. At times, what happens is we do it later on after an application goes live, people don't have the patience or the workflow that just doesn't get set right. So that is a summary of what we did here. And in terms of the benefits, what used to take about 20-25 minutes for a person was cut down by about 70%. And earlier the human process used to result in errors of almost 30-40%. You can imagine a person sitting and manually counting it in a day. They can do 8-10 images, high error rate. So lower error, very good efficiencies. So this is the kind of ROI which the solution is able to demonstrate.